Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. As you can tell from the title up there, I'm continuing my trek through the episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond, one at a time. We are now on Season 7, near the end of it actually. This of course is episode 23, The Bachelor Party. This is the penultimate episode of this season. And like a lot of the previous episodes, it is both wedding themed, and with this one, it continues the trend of actually building up towards Robert and Amy's wedding. And it's very apt that previously we saw a little bit of Amy's bridal shower, even though that was only a subplot in the episode, and here we get Robert's bachelor party, and it is more a main plot of the episode. Now this episode is written by Tom Caltabiano, another longtime writer here, and like a lot of the other episodes he wrote throughout the show, you can definitely tell he knows these characters, he knows how to get them to interact, which character is the best for what part of the plot, and he knows to throw in some side characters when apt. And of course, given the type of situation and the fact we have Raymond as the best man, he starts this episode off in the best possible way, and that is with Ray completely dropping the ball when it comes to getting a bachelor party for Robert, because it's just him, Robert, and Gianni playing cards in Robert's apartment. You can tell everything's packed up. Robert's getting ready to leave. And I believe this is the last time they're going to use that set, because every other time we see an apartment with Robert and Amy, it's going to be Amy's apartment after this. And getting ready to move and all that. And Gianni, being how he is the one that mentioned, yeah, this party blows. This is the worst bachelor party you can do. And they're trying to make the best of it, but this is not really a bachelor party. I mean, even me with my ADHD and all that, if I ever did get married and we had a bachelor party, this is not the type of bachelor party I would want. Something like that. That's just not it. It's a bachelor party. You would actually want it to be, you know, a party, not just to stay at home, a sit-in. That'd be like the day after the bachelor party to socially recover, not the party itself. So, you know, they're dropping the ball. Then, of course, we get another quick cameo a little bit after this, because at the party, all of a sudden we get a knock at the door, and it is Hector, Robert's landlord, played, of course, by excuse me. Yeah, I got my phone out. I got the guy's name here. I'm trying to pronounce his name correctly. Emiliano Diaz, who a lot of you will recognize, of course, as playing George's father-in-law on the George Lopez show, George's first sitcom. Of course, you know, the Cuban father. And here, of course, he's playing the landlord. He does a nice little quick cameo there. And most of his gags revolve around the fact that Robert is big, and of course, the smell regarding Robert's feet. And of course, off screen, he plays cards with Robert. Because at the same time, Johnny has to leave because he has to go have a quick conquest. And since he was driven there by Ray, that means Ray has to leave. So, party's over. Robert's doing his best to be like, yeah, this is that was a good party. But then once Ray gets home, the crap hits the fan, and he finds out this is not what Robert wanted. And who's he told by? Amy and Marie. This is one of the few times where Marie lambasts Raymond to defend Robert, and it's well earned. You know, there's a couple other moments, usually when Robert gets on his pity party about something or Ray tells him something. Like near the end, I believe it was season 5, if I remember correctly, where Ray made the comment about how you should not be hanging out with the kids as much as that, and then, you know, get a life and all that. Here, definitely apt for Marie to defend Robert with all that, considering that he's been wanting a good bachelor party from his best man. He's talked about it with his soon-to-be wife. He's mentioned it in passing to his mother and other people, and Ray seriously drops the ball. And as she puts it, that is as lame as it can get. So they basically strong-arm Ray into throwing a replacement bachelor party. They're going to make this one a surprise. And after some back-and-forth planning, they decide they're going to have this bachelor party at Frank's lodge. And they're going to invite everybody. So basically, everybody that we know who is a friend for both Ray and Robert is there. You know, you see Bernie, Gianni's there, Andy's there. See a couple people in the background who we're supposed to suspect are friends of both of them that we rarely see. I mean, even though he lost after the pilot, it would have been interesting to see Leo make a random appearance here, but of course, he only made it past the pilot and went off into obscurity. And of course, since it's at the lodge, Frank's there, a bunch of his friends are there, like Stan and Garvin. Of course, we even see Albert, played by Ray's real life dad there, and he's one of the ones holding up the sign, which leads to one of the gags that show even this replacement bachelor party is going off the rails because it's supposed to say congratulations Robert, but the sign says congratulations Woody. And of course, Phil Rosenthal's dad makes a cameo in there as like a little partner with Albert. Of course, even Hank and Peter are there. I mean, it is Robert's bachelor party, so it makes sense that his future in-laws are there. But given what we've seen of them, we know something's going to happen. It's probably going to be stirred on by them. I mean, and that all happens, of course, after Robert gets there. Robert gets there, and of course, they're trying to time it right. Of course, Garvin fell asleep on duty. And this is one of the few moments in the episode where we actually get to see Cousin Gerard. And there are others earlier when he's talking about, yeah, this is what I know on the accordion. And then, of course, once they all see that Robert's there, da-dun, 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 trying to salvage it. Robert seems to be having a little fun at first, especially with the gag that Ray's going with. Yeah, this is the actual bachelor party. That over there, that was the, that was a decoy party. And who is that ruined by? That whole story is ruined, of course, by Peter, because Peter starts talking about Ray and Robert, like, oh yeah, I heard you had another one of these thrown before, like, oh, decoy. Wasn't it that actually that was the actual party and then you were forced into doing this? Which we all know with how Peter feels about Robert and Amy marrying. We know he's doing that just to try to ruin the evening, try to get a little dig in there, even though the party's being thrown by someone who he considers a friend. And he does get out of there when Ray, rightfully so, is getting annoyed at him, like, and he thinks he's starting to go full mafia on him. Now, at this point in the show, Peter definitely deserves all this. I mean, his characterization is a little bit differently than what we saw in Season 4 when he was played by the late Paul Rubens. But here, he's really starting to become a jerk. It's one of those things that if in the show somebody punched Peter, you'd be like, yes, somebody finally did what we wanted to do. And of course, they leave. Even with this knowledge, though, about the party not being a decoy and that originally being the real party and this just being a strong-armed one, Robert is not that upset. I mean, there's a little bit there, but he's not super upset. He's actually happy that Ray went out of his way to do this, and they're happy. Even though the party is turning into a little bit of a dud, partially due to the fact that there is no alcohol because the lodge lost its alcohol license, so there's no beer. And because of the wives and future wife, they cannot have a stripper. And that's actually one of the gags earlier when they're telling Ray he can throw the party. And of course, when everyone finds out there's no strippers, you can imagine Hank is probably one of the only people happy about that due to his religion. Everyone else is like, Bernie puts it the best when they find out, I'm a married man, you can't do this to me. When I heard that, I'm like, wow. Bernie. Leave it to Bernie to say that. Isn't that right, Odie? Yeah, because he's looking up at me when I say that. So they all decide they're going to leave the lodge and they go to a bar. And they get drunk. Now, before, of course, the epilogue where they all come home intoxicated, we get one of the funny little moments where Albert and, I guess, Phil, or whatever his name is, they wake up from passing out. The old typical old person falls asleep easily gag with the cake. They're like, oh, that Woody's a good guy. This leads to one of my favorite little blooper moments where they wake up. Albert, we're finally alone. It's like, yeah, they had the timing for that. They knew the timing of the jokes they had to do for that, and they timed that one perfectly to get the audience riled up. It's a perfect moment. I mean, obviously it's not going to be in the final episode, but it's good for the blooper reel. Now, of course, once they all come back drunk in the epilogue, they come home, and you see they had fun. It's mainly Ray and Robert at first, because Frank went home, and they're all trying to figure out what happened. I bet there were strippers. No, that's why we're here. That line still gets me funny. You could tell what they're trying to set up for. And that leads to a lot of the humor here, especially when Marie's like, I just wonder what's waiting for me across the street. She gets up and runs out. I'm like, oh, Marie. Hey, she and Frank are old. They're not dead. I mean, that was the whole point of the episode where, a couple times a week is pretty good. Give or take, the point is we're not dead. We're just old. Yep, that was the point. And all in all, this is a good way to end this episode. This bachelor party episode. Nice little segue into the season and finale and all that. Given all that's happened so far leading up to the wedding, before the wedding, this is probably the best that Robert's bachelor party could have gone, being thrown by Ray. Tom does a good job writing and setting up the scenario and the back and forth between all the characters, even if they only have a couple lines or no lines and all they have to do is physically act and react to everything. They do a pretty good job. A couple of these characters, like Bernie, they're not even going to have any lines in the next episode, but their presence there is good from a story continuity standpoint. And here, setting up some of that, definitely a good job there. Not really much else I can say about this episode, because considering this season's at full length, even though this does serve a good little story purpose, it's filler without being filler. It's more like a little pacer so that we can get towards the wedding, fill in some story details without having too much risk. Because without a bachelor party, or if Ray decide not to throw it, what's really the risk to the story other than maybe Robert saying, "You're out of the wedding"? That's about it. All in all, good fun episode. And now we move on to the finale, which, depending on how you look at it, whether you look at the DVD or on TV, it's 2 episodes, but technically it's supposed to just be one long episode. I think it's just split in half for easyability of watch. Do have a couple things to say about this, more so near the end when I talk about one difference I noticed between the actual version and the syndicated version. That, of course, is going to be the long-awaited wedding of Robert and Amy. Till next time, everybody.